It's 1 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Jacinta Lee with 2NURFM Hunter News. A Charlestown man has been charged with attempting to procure a child for sex online. Detectives from the Sex Crime Squad's Child Exploitation Internet Unit started an online operation in June, assuming the identity of a 14-year-old girl, and had a number of conversations with the man. The 27-year-old was arrested at about 7:30 a.m. today and was granted strict conditional bail to appear before Belmont Local Court on September 16th. Detective Inspector Michael Haddo says police will allege the man committed a number of offences.
We will allege that the assumed online identity of a 14-year-old girl had a number of conversations with this 27-year-old man. Further, we'll allege he made a number of highly sexually explicit comments, sent a number of indecent images and engaged in explicit acts online, as well as discussing potentially meeting who he thought was this girl.
Jobs at the Newcastle Herald could be at stake, with a meeting being held today to ascertain Fairfax's cut number. Voluntary redundancies will be first on the list, and photographers are tipped to be among the losses. The meeting comes just 2 years after Fairfax's announcement that the Herald will have its editorial production moved to New Zealand. Tuesday night's vote in favour of moving support away from fossil fuel investing banks has divided Newcastle Council. The new plan aims to give preference to environmentally responsible investment funds, but critics say it could pull the rug out from under Newcastle coal workers and the local economy. Newcastle councillor Brad Luke says it's a disappointing decision.
Absolute disgust. You've got to bear in mind the decision has got nothing to do with investing in renewable resources or doing any such thing. We don't invest in renewable resources. The council can only invest in fixed interest and term deposits. It actually says that we are to preference away from any institution that supports the mining industry.
The Liberal Baird government has come under fire for spending thousands of dollars in taxi fares compensating stranded rail passengers between Sydney and the Hunter. The fares come to light along with figures showing a 23% jump in train cancellations across the rail network since last year. However, Parliamentary Secretary for the Hunter, Scott McDonald, says the government is working to upgrade the network.
Any cancellation is difficult, that's for sure, but we are getting a lot more intercity services. They've increased by 65% from 144 3 or 4 years ago. We're now doing 237. And look, can I just say, it's one of the reasons that the state government, the Baird Liberal government, took to the last state election to lease long-term poles and wires so that we can invest in the train system.
Hunter Greyhound racing officials are urging greyhound owners to boost their biosecurity in the wake of a kennel cough outbreak. Dogs suspected of contracting the respiratory disease should remain where they are and not travel off affected properties. Abernathy Greyhound trainer Bob Whitelaw says dogs who aren't treated quick enough could be at serious risk.
Domestic dogs, that are not well looked after, generally are the carriers, So, the dogs roaming the street, the dogs that are in the national parks that are wild dogs and, foxes and things like that, they will carry the virus, yeah.
The Hunter Institute of Mental Health are introducing a Hunter-wide Partners in Mining initiative to help curb depression in the mining and construction industry. The program will be aimed at providing Hunter mine workers and their families with information, support and guidance. The Institute's director, Jaylee Skian, says up to 10,000 people in the state's mining industry experience mental health illness in any given year.
What Partners in Mining does is provides people with some confidential information and support around getting more information about mental health, learning some practical tips on how to support someone who might be doing it tough, finding out where to access support services, and also learning ways to look after yourself if you're caring or supporting someone who's got a mental health problem.
In finance, the All Ords is up 70 points at 52.49 and $1 is buying 71.30 US cents.
Sport for our sponsor, Warners Bay Sports Club, Fishing Expo, September 13.
Interim Newcastle Knights coach Danny Baderis is hopeful he will return to the top spot at the club someday after Knights officials denied he would be offered the position next season. 4 games into his caretaker stint at the club, Baderis has led the struggling team to back-to-back wins against the Tigers and the Storm. Baderis says although he'd love the opportunity to coach in the future, he understands his role as caretaker coach.
Yeah, it was always about 6 weeks. I'm 4 weeks into that. It's been enjoyable. I'm off on the back of 2 wins and you start to think out loud a little bit, but also understanding what my role is here, and that's to caretake this team for another 2 weeks and finish off as good as we can.
Meanwhile, the Knights are deep in preparation for what could be their most important home game this season against the Bulldogs on Saturday. Honouring Old Boys Day, as well as saying goodbye to long-serving skipper Kurt Gidley, the game will have a lot of meaning for the club. Off the back of 2 consecutive wins, the club will be looking to end a disappointing season on a high. And in rugby, Nelson Bay will look for a new coach for next season after Darren Hancock announced he was ready to hand over the reins to a new candidate. That's sport. 2NURFM News Time is 1:05.